Hi teachers, my name is Debbie Drinkwater, and I know we are going through a really stressful time right now, transitioning to all having to be online teachers. And I really wanted to reach out and do something to help my fellow teachers. I was a classroom teacher for 8 years, but for the last 12 years I have taught online with Palm Beach Virtual School. I also have my master's in educational technology with a focus in online teaching. And so with that, with my experience, I really wanted to do what I can to help all of you, because I will say, having transitioned from being a classroom teacher to a virtual teacher, it is a very different job, very, very different. And so we have to approach it differently. And so today I just kind of wanted to share with you some of the basic tips that I can give. I know right now you are just kind of all scrambling to get classrooms, online classrooms set up, content online. So I wanted to start there, just kind of with the basics of creating a good virtual platform and classroom and material for your students. Going forward, I plan on creating other videos with more specific resources. Right now, I am creating this tutorial in Adobe Connect, which if you're a Palm Beach a Palm Beach County teacher, you have access to through your portal. So this is a great place to have live lessons or to record lessons for your students. So I'm going to do a session on this, session on a lot of the Google tools, Google Classroom if you need it. But for right now, just kind of wanted to help you get started with creating that content online. So the first thing that's really important in online learning is engagement, right? You want your students to be engaged. You are not there in front of them every day anymore. They're online in front of a computer. So how are we now going to keep them engaged with our content and our material now that we're not in front of them, right? And so the first part of that is just kind of creating an attractive, clutter-free course. And I know most of you are using, in our county, are using Google Classroom, which is wonderful. If you need any help with that, I can do a session on that. But it definitely allows you to create a very organized class so that you can organize your lessons and your assignments into units or modules, like your students are reading a textbook online. You definitely want to vary your material delivery formats, right? It's very easy to just put static content in there, to just put text, right? But just like if we're in the classroom, we don't want to lecture all day. We don't want to just give worksheets. That's not engaging. It's not engaging online either. We know that those things are necessary. Obviously, sometimes we have to just deliver the material, and that's okay. But we definitely want to make sure that we are varying, that we're not just having that static content where they're reading something and submitting an assignment. As much as you can, have some interactive content where they are interacting with it, images, infographics, videos, linking them places, doing these live lessons or recorded lessons. I would definitely say, virtual learning is not where you're hopping on the computer every day and just teaching your students online. That is not my job. My students with Palm Beach Virtual, all their material is online. Really, that's definitely what I would recommend for you, that you have that material online, and then those live lessons are something optional, or you're recording lessons so that they can hear you and they can see you. That's definitely going to be very important. They're not going to feel engaged and connected to you if they're not still hearing and seeing you, but that definitely doesn't have to be live. The reason I would get away from that, from saying, hey, everyone hop online at 9 o'clock, is because we're in really a difficult situation for families, and we don't know what their schedules are. We don't know when and if these parents are going to work, or when the students have access to get online. So we really want to leave it flexible for them. Kind of limit requiring live lessons, but definitely you can offer those so that students can come in and they can still see you and hear you and connect with you and ask questions. But recorded lessons are great. Vary assessments as well, just like we do in the classroom. Vary between self-checks, question answer, writing tasks, projects. We can still do all of those things online, and students, when they're on the computer, have so much at their fingertips. They can be creating videos and interactive content to submit to you as well. Definitely provide some active learning opportunities. I've heard a lot of parents that are really stressed and concerned about getting their students to sit in front of a computer for 6 hours. What I've said to them, obviously our students are sitting for 6 hours in the classroom, and so they certainly can sit, but we don't want them just sitting in front of a screen and staring at it all day. And I'm going to do some sessions for parents about scheduling, that I will share with you as well to help your parents with scheduling, but definitely provide those active learning opportunities where they're going elsewhere outside of your classroom for a virtual field trip, where they're getting up to do hands-on activities, like an experiment, or they're doing group work where you're assigning them to discuss or collaborate with another student. The second important tip that I can give to you is communication and collaboration. Again, your students are now going to be separated from you. They're not coming into your classroom any day anymore. They're not seeing you every day anymore, and that can cause a disconnect. And when there's a disconnect, then that can, cause issues with students no longer engaging and participating. So with becoming an online teacher, it is so important to communicate, and you will communicate probably in different ways and probably more often than you did as a classroom teacher, because your job shifts and you will have more time once you have gotten over the hurdle of getting your content online. You do have a little bit more time to communicate because you're not actively teaching all day. And so, email your students and parents. Text and phone as an online teacher, I use a lot. You may not feel comfortable using that. I will have another session where I go over Google Voice, which is a great free tool where you can get yourself a separate phone number that comes to your cell phone, but your students don't have your personal number. So that's a great option if you do want to be texting and calling, students and parents. Certainly we have use of ParentLink in Palm Beach County as well for that purpose, for recorded messages. You can communicate by, sending audio clips, by sending a video clip to yourself, chatting, instant messaging. You have kind of that announcement feature in Google Classroom, or you can use Google Hangouts to chat and instant message. You can post announcements in Google Classroom. I recommend having possibly some online office hours. Again, right now I'm in Adobe Connect, which you all have free access to. You can use Zoom, you can use Google Hangouts. But again, since you're not actively teaching during the day, you could still have those office hours where students can meet you somewhere online to ask you those questions or to engage with you about concerns that they're having. Collaboration is important as well, because these students are going from a social environment of being in the classroom to being at home. So we don't, again, want them to feel that disconnect. So having discussion posts in groups in your Google Classroom where you're asking them to discuss with their classmates, where you are offering some live lessons, even if it's once a week, where you're encouraging collaborative assignments, where they're still doing group work, but online. We can achieve that through discussion groups or through Google Drive, but allowing for that opportunity for students still to have some interaction. Working with many of my students who are full-time virtual, I can tell you I'll have a live lesson on FSA, and they're like, that was awesome. I love it. And it's not because FSA is wonderfully engaging, but it's because they appreciate getting to hear me, getting to see me, getting to interact with their classmates. So it's really important that you still give them those opportunities. The third tip is timely and specific feedback. And we have this information here that says if you give them feedback directed to them personally, it reduces some barriers that naturally develop in the online classroom. Again, it's very easy for students to feel disconnected when they're working in the online environment. Since you're not there in front of them to be like, hey, great job, that needs to be communicated online. And feedback is very different. As a classroom teacher, I would pick and choose what I would grade. I would often just check things off as being done. But when you're not there interacting with the student, that very specific, timely feedback becomes very important. So when they are posting to discussions, when they're emailing, texting, chatting you questions, it is very important that you're getting back to them quickly, that they know you're still there. I think right now parents are very concerned. They're feeling like all of a sudden they're the teachers, and we want to remind them that they're not, that their teachers are still here, and that we are present, and that we're answering those questions that the students and parents have. When I say timely, for me, it's 24 hours. That's something great. Turnaround time on grading of assessments can also have a big impact on future student efforts. If, again, in the classroom, it's not as essential that you're grading something within 2 days because they're engaged with you. But when all they have from you is that feedback, in order to get them motivated to keep working, they need to know that you are recognizing that they've done the work. So again, I recommend typically 2 days, 2 school days. So if they turn in the work on Monday, try to have it graded by Wednesday. If they turn it in on Friday, again, you have your weekends off, so then that would be two school days. On Tuesday, you'd have that graded. You want to make sure that that feedback is detailed, that it's specific. If you can say something positive, that tends to be more effective than just faint praise or something unclear, like great job or good start, but try and improve, right? Because they aren't in front of you to ask you those questions, you want to have that detailed feedback that tells them what they did well, maybe what they can improve, what they did wrong. It's really important, again, that they know you are there and that you're connecting. Try to include the student's name and try to always include your name, right? So it's, hey, Johnny, great job, summarizing the central idea and the key points from this, paragraph. Keep up the great work, Ms. Drinkwater. All right. Again, this is totally up to you, but in the online environment, allowing students to resubmit that work typically is a great idea as well, because again, this is a very different environment. We don't know that they're always going to understand our message when it's delivered via online content. So it may be important that our feedback is allowing them to understand what we meant to get across the first time, and allowing them to revise is helping that learning process. Tracking their engagement and tracking their progress is really important. It's very important to stay on top of students. There's a lot of distractions for them at home. This is a very new environment for them. A lot of students are going to struggle. And so it's important that we're monitoring that they're completing the work, they're submitting assessments. If you're having live lessons, if you're having discussions in office hours, see who's participating, communicate with your parents regularly, right? If you notice a student is not participating, working, get on the phone, send an email, send a text, so that they can get on top of that right away, because it's, again, easy for students to disconnect. So we really want to be sure that we're tracking who is working and who is participating. Finally, recognition and rewards, right? When we're in the classroom, we can do this all the time, right? Hey, great job, great answer. We have our stars on the board, whatever it may be. This is important online too. Again, this all goes back to engagement. But if we're recognizing when students succeed, right? And that can be one-on-one. It can be a simple text, that I'll send my students. Hey, I noticed that you submitted this. Great job. I noticed you got all of your work in. Great job. Or even publicly, where you have, an announcement every week with, the students' first names of who's done a great job on something. Or rewards, right? Again, we all love rewards, and those keep students motivated. So reward their participation, reward their progress, reward their completion. You can do that through, badges. They're earning badges, which are great for younger kids. For older kids, often extra credit is a motivator. Or with the flexibility of virtual school, you can say, hey, if you get all of your work done by Thursday, you have a 3-day weekend, right? That's why I encourage flexibility, that if you can, try and get that week's worth of work up there. And then, they have the flexibility of doing it throughout the week, and the reward of, if they get it done early, they can have some time off. Students love that. They love that. We want to play up on the benefits of online learning, that where they can be at their own pace. If they can get, the work done in less time or in fewer days, that's more time for them to, be outside riding their bike or shooting hoops. So definitely, if you can make it so that the students, can kind of have the work there and can get it done early, then that's going to lead to more rewards that you can provide for them and incentive for them to do the work for you. Okay. So finally, remember, be flexible and go easy on yourself. Like I said, this is a very different job. It takes a lot of time and training for